Welcome to the 5th annual Spark, not counting that 1 year that didn't actually happen. I'm so glad you all are here today. This is the Spark event. If you're thinking of a different event, it's probably somewhere else. Spark Faces of UVA Entrepreneurs. We have 3 sponsors who we're very grateful to. We couldn't have done this without. The Glant Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, who made this entire event possible, booking the theater and all the logistical parts of UVA. Venture Central with some of the staffing needs, and then UVA Engineering for printing all the flyers that you've seen. If you're at the activities fair with, it was like 1,000 quarter sheet flyers, and actually booking this venue, which is a little hard to do. First up, I just want to have Professor Eric Martin of the Glant Center come and say a few words.
Thanks very much, Alex. We're very lucky to have Alex on our team. He joined McIntyre in the innovation and entrepreneurship area just recently, and frankly, he's been running this event for years and done it quite successfully. And we're glad you're all here. I don't want to take too much time. Just know that the Glant Center, which is at McIntyre, is responsible for hosting the Pan University minor in entrepreneurship, which our colleagues at Baton and at engineering partner with us on. There are 3 different tracks in that minor. There are also a lot of programs around grants. Today is all about inspiration and hearing the stories of people that started businesses here at UVA, what they did day one, how they maneuvered through the system and where they are today. I think you'll find it very interesting and inspirational. On the 14th, I'll also remind you about this again at the end. On the 14th in the afternoon in room 120 at McIntyre, we'll have more food at 5:30 p.m. and we'll do an information session in which many of the people from around grounds will speak and give you specific directions about how to get in touch with people that you might want to get involved with. There are a lot of organizations like Forge that are terrific around grounds, many places you might want to get involved with. You'll see them there, and we'll also talk about the academic program. Thanks so much. Let me hand it back to Alex.
Actually, hand it to Alexander right here. He's here. So yeah, that's the Eric Martin of the Glant Center. Give him a round of applause.
Talk about Venture Central.
Yeah, and Venture Central, Alexander's the executive director.
Yeah. Hi everyone, thanks all for being here. It's great to see so many people excited about entrepreneurship. My name's Alex Andrew. It'll be easy to remember hopefully. We've got a speaker named Alex as well, just to make it easy. Great to have you. The organization I run is really here to create a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem in Central Virginia. So really, we're here to help, I guess. And if you need anything, please look us up, reach out. Alex works with me, and happy to help you get started, sustain, grow your business. Thanks a lot.
Just leave it there. Round of applause for Alexander. Okay, just if y'all weren't clear, today is a celebration of the entrepreneurial journey. It is truly a journey. If you're in entrepreneurship or anything else, any outcome-based things, like I'm going to be a millionaire, it's probably not going to be, it's going to be a long road. So today is a celebration of the entrepreneurial journey. And we have 6 speakers, not 5, we have an extra. 6 speakers here to tell you about their journey from first day of first year at UVA all the way to their success now. So what each has accomplished so far is impressive, but what I want you to take away, nothing else, is that if they can do it, you can do it too. And as Professor Martin did say, the next event, if you're really interested in this and want more than just inspiration and stories, but you're like, what is here at UVA? Who is here at UVA to help me? This event will be where you want to go. And there's also food there. Good. Look, I trained them with the QR code stuff. This is great. Signed up for events this way. No, that wasn't me. It's just what people do these days. This is so exciting. So many buttons. Okay, I'm going to take this down in 5, 4. This will come up again at the end. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and then I just really want to actually name people. So main people who helped up there. Jim Chang, right down there, he also brought the camera, and Vanessa Pace in engineering, Alexander, Eric Martin, also Amanda Morris and Chip Ransom from the Glant Center. The food was actually being brought by a student, actually, picking up from Costco, and then Kelly Murphy's out there who's going to be helping make sure everybody gets some. And then there's a bunch of people who helped with marketing for this event. Okay, so this is what you're here for. There are 6 speakers. who are really awesome. And so we're just going to roll right into this. Jeremy Suh of Spot, class 2025. Round of applause.
Can y'all hear me? Oh. Is this good? Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Cool. All right, nice to meet you. My name is Jeremy Suh. I'm a computer engineering student, and I am in my second year. And the company I'm here to talk to you guys about is Spot. And so last year, a lot of you guys, I was a first year, and I was living in dorms. And so the dorm I was assigned was Gooch Dillard. And so if you guys don't know, Gooch Dillard is as far as you can possibly get off campus. And so, it's about a 2-hour walk from literally everything. And so I decided last year that instead of walking to and from that every single day, I would live here in Rice Hall. And so Rice Hall holds a special part in my heart because they have conference rooms. And so this is a little bit of a secret, so I hope you guys, don't crowd it. But these conference rooms can be reserved for 2-hour blocks. And so what me and my friends would do is we would block it off and we'd reserve from 10 to 8, each one of us rotating off. And so here is where we kind of started ideating. We started talking about businesses. We started talking about entrepreneurship. And right here, while we were supposed to be doing homework, we started coming up with business ventures. And so when I came to UVA, I kind of did have this thing where I was like, I want to start my own company. And I didn't really know how to do that. So I started talking to professors, some entrepreneurship professors, talking about how do I get started. And so they recommended me, like a lot of people do. They said, follow your passion. But what does that mean when you're a first year undecided? I have no idea. So what I did was I took what I did end up doing during the days, which was weightlifting, and I decided to call my friends who used to weightlift with me. And so my 2 friends that used to weightlift with me are now at Berkeley and at U Michigan. So they're pretty far. And I asked them, what kind of problems do you guys have with weightlifting? What kind of companies do you think that we could build off weightlifting? And they came back to me with pretty much nothing. But what I figured out was that we weren't that well connected. And so I was like, all right, let's run with that. So not well connected, there's a couple ways you can do, kind of solve this type of problem. And so the first one's very easy. You text them. You're like, how much have you been lifting these days? How are you doing? The second thing is you can call them, also very easy. Or you could dedicate 3 months to building a full stack mobile application with little to no experience in application development and backend development. So being the rational person that I am, I picked the third option. And so I hit up one of my boys that I was working with in Rice, Aditya, he's right here. And we started building. And so when we started building this, we didn't really know what we were doing. So the first thing we had to kind of figure out was what tools would we use. And so we started off looking at 2 tools, Swift and Firebase. So it's the programming language, and Firebase is a server hosting. And we were like, okay, this seems pretty easy to use. Let's try this. And so we started there. We're CS majors, but we didn't really know too much about this. So we decided, all right, let's now learn it ourselves. We're going to go to Udemy, YouTube, Stack Overflow, Frankensteining all these pieces together. And after about 3 months, we finally had this this app together, this social media connecting app. And at the time, we didn't really have too much idea of what we were exactly doing. It was more like we just put our heads in the ground and started working. And at the conclusion of this, after 3 months, we finally sat down and we were like, what do we do with it, right? And so I was the first year. I don't really know what was going on. I was barely sticking it through finals, and we finally stumbled upon an opportunity to come here to the UVA. The UVA iLab. And so the UVA iLab kind of provided us with the opportunity to kind of start streamlining our ideas with the community. And so the 3 main problems that we ended up kind of identifying for our project was there was no place to put gym-related content, there's a lack of a gym community, and there's struggles with gym accountability. And so if you see here, these pictures are completely unrelated. I just want to have some images up here for you guys. But the iLab community provided us with a lot of support, help with resources and mentors, and it really helped us guide our journey. And so the biggest thing for me when I'm talking to you guys right now is that I'm still just a second year, I have barely any more experience than you guys do, but the biggest thing that I've learned is to get started and get connected with people. And so just to kind of go on top of this, I want to exemplify, the benefits of having a community. And so these are, this is just a quick little graphic looking at New Year's resolutions for people that are in fitness. And so I don't know if you guys have ever made a New Year's resolution, when you first, you're like, okay, I'm gonna work out every day for this year. 90% of you guys fit, and that's including me sometimes. And when you look at this 10%, or after you go through a couple months, 7 to 8%, what we found is that actually that 7 to 8%, 75% of them go with a friend. And of the people, that's 90% that don't end up succeeding, only 20% of them go with a friend. So, this really highlights how big, having a network of friends that are doing the same things that you guys are doing, how important that is. And so we really did find that at the iLab. And so me and a teacher were there this summer, and we worked with Professor Jason Brewster on, with a lot of other people in our cohort, and we kind of like streamlined our idea, and we built it out in a way that we should have, using customer discovery and doing a lot of market research from other companies. And so that's where we currently are right now. And we're set to kind of re-release something in the fall for you guys. So if you guys are on campus, definitely go download that when I do release it. It'll be really fun. You'll see posters everywhere. I'll be posting it. But before I go, I want to also talk about another venture that I worked on here at UVA, because we had a lot of time at Rice. So another thing that we've been working on is this company called Lynx. And so what we're doing is this is food delivery for you guys. And so it's meal exchanges, or your Elevate meal exchange, or pickup orders. And we're just trying to get food delivered to you guys fast. And the way we're doing that is we're using group ordering. So you order with a couple friends, and you get all your food from one restaurant to your door. And so the idea with this is that we're able to pay our couriers more while also providing you guys with cheaper deliveries, because all the orders are coming together. And so one quick funny story about this one is that when we first started building this, it was about mid-April. And so, finals were starting to come up, and we were approaching a deadline. It was 2 weeks till finals, and we sat down, me and my two friends, Arnav and Andrew, they're sitting right here, and we were like, okay, are we gonna launch in the springtime? And so, just for reference, about 50% of the app was done, and we had about 2 weeks. And so, the rational thing would have been to push the release, to maybe next semester when we had more time, a more streamlined product. But if you guys know anything about me so far, we didn't push the release date. So what we ended up doing is we ended up powering through that within the week, and we released it next week. And there's definitely a lot of things we learned from that. I could go on like a 100-line list of what we learned. But one of the biggest things we learned was it's just good to get out there, good thing to start. And so as I leave you guys, the biggest thing for me that I want to make sure that you guys are all aware of is getting started, okay? There's so many opportunities here at UVA. I didn't originally think so, but there's so many opportunities here to get involved. And so for me, I made this QR code. What this is a link to go to a poll. And I'm trying to kind of connect a lot of you entrepreneurs in the same way that we were at Rice. I want to connect incoming entrepreneurs so that they can also find people that they can work with and maybe work with them myself. And so I've left my contact information right there. Lynx is releasing on Tuesday, and it's following coming this fall. So I'd really appreciate if you guys check that out. And one more thanks to Alex for inviting me up here. I appreciate it.
Wait, Jeremy, stay up there. We still have 2.5 minutes. Can we do some Q&A?
All right, sure.
Excellent. All right, questions from the audience. Here's the microphone.
Hello, thank you for sharing. My quick question is, could you explain a little bit more about what iLab is?
Yeah, so iLab is an incubator program hosted by Darden. And what they do is you do an application in February, you approach them with an idea, and what they do is they accept, 10 to 15, or at least this past year, it was about 10 to 15 ventures, and they provide you with resources such as like money, and they also connect you with mentors that are related to your startup, and you do like weekly check-ins with other people in your cohort, and the entire thing is to like guide your startup along during the summer. And it was a really rewarding experience. I appreciate. I don't know how he's here, Professor Jason Brewster. He did a great job with us, and we learned a lot. So.
I would just like to ask, how did you start meeting with like friends that had the same passion as you, like the friends you mentioned that stayed in Rice Hall with you together, and you guys like had the collective idea of talking about like business ventures and like.
Yeah, so and one part about that is I was kind of lucky because I'm from Northern Virginia, and so you guys have probably heard it. Everyone, we have about a third of the class coming in here from Northern Virginia, so it was a little easier to get connected to people that were also interested in entrepreneurship because I kind of hear it from word of mouth. But for me, one of the biggest things was kind of just talking to one friend about it, and then just he starts to talk to somebody else about it, and you end up kind of attracting people that are going to be interested in the same things that you're interested in. And so just talking about it, getting involved in it, such as the e-cup competition, which is coming up in October. That was a great way to get started because they give you feedback on your proposal if you create an idea, and you can also get access to all the other people that applied for your e-cup, so you can reach out to them and talk to them.
Okay. Now give Jamie a final round of applause. If we advance the slides to the next speaker. All right, and now we have class of 2023, Som Mohapatra. Round of applause for Som. Okay, it's up on the thing. You can just top up there. Entrepreneur is a contact sport.
You guys gonna be all right? All right. Hey guys, how many of you have played poker before, or played poker? You should all take a gap year. So, hey guys, I'm Som Mohapatra, class of 2023. I took computer science and economics before taking a gap year after my second year. Currently myself, my co-founder and a team of 5 run Quantbase, which is a quant hedge fund for normal investors. So I started off my entrepreneurship journey with a brief stint into market microstructure with a company named Universal in the middle of my first year. So Universal, the idea behind Universal was creating a prediction market for UVA students that UVA students were able to buy and sell shares of their opinion behind events like frat parties, class selection, etc. It was interesting. This was my middle of my first year after the COVID semester. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about efficient markets, market microstructure, etc. Met a lot of folks on LinkedIn, and ended up sunsetting Universal after my first year. So my second year, we did some. So let me back up real quick. So after Universal, I was ideating with different ideas in entrepreneurship, and I did something pretty interesting my second year, and that was 12-hour challenges. So the idea behind those was I went to the comm school at 8 p.m. and came in with the idea to just learn one specific topic and just spend 12 hours just focusing on that one topic. So what I did was I went in through the comm school back door, had a friend who was working there late, keep the door open for me, and just learned a lot of kind of nerdy finance stuff. So I started off learning about the timber industry, and then learned a little bit about luxury retail, luxury fashion, and then slowly started learning more about value investing, factor investing, etc. And then one day, a friend and I went into McIntyre, and we learned about poker. So before then, this was about the middle, 60% into my second year. I'd played poker before, once or twice, but I'd never really, I'd say maybe a hand or two, but I never really understood the specifics of poker. So what we did was we went through the entire Wikipedia for poker, learned for 12 hours. We had Red Bulls with us. We had a couple 5-hour interviews, and we understood kind of the idea behind how mathematical players play poker. And so if you're familiar with poker, you've understood the idea of pot odds. The idea behind pot odds is, when I'm making a bet, it's not just the strength of my hand, it's the strength of my hand relative to what's in the pot, aka the pool of money that's already being bet. So I could have a really, really strong hand, but even if I have a strong hand, it might not make sense for me to bet into the pool if the pool is too small and my bet relative to the pool
is too high. So that session of just learning poker taught me a lot. It actually changed how I thought about like risk return, the risk return payoff. And the reason I bring that up is my so moving on to my third year. So moving on to my at the beginning of my third year, I learned a lot about. So I've been in the investment banking track for 2.5 years, and I was about to be an RA, and I came to UVA, had gone through the 2 weeks of like RA training, which happened a week before all the other students came back to UVA, and I was faced with a decision. So I had been working with my co-founder Thomas on Quantbase over second year summer, and we raised a little bit of funding. We had made a little bit of money, but we weren't really at a point where it made made full sense for me to it wasn't like a hell yes on whether to take a gap year, on whether Thomas should quit his job. And so I was faced with a choice on whether I should do this. And so there was, a few things that kind of came into my mind. I had a few conversations, literally, about 3 days into the RA training. I spoke with a few friends about, whether it made sense for me to take a gap year, right? Spoke with a few of my investment banking mentors. I spoke with some entrepreneurship mentors, and this is the journal entry I wrote the night after I spoke with about 7 to 8 of my friends. As you can see, it was I was really scared about making that jump, but I spoke with a few friends, and they essentially they were like, hey, so a few of my friends, Christian Blackwell and Austin Hagwitz, who are big influencers on TikTok, about 1 million followers. They said, Som, if you make this jump, if you take this gap year, we'll fundraise, we'll give you a little bit of funding, and that was enough for me to kind of make that jump. And so now it's been about 1.5 years since I started Quantbase. We've raised just shy of $1 million. We've gotten a few $1 million of assets under our belt. We've gotten featured in news organizations like Forbes, the Wall Street Journal. We've gotten partnerships with some pretty cool influencer brands on TikTok and Twitter. If you've heard of Uber Whales, Overcon, etc., with a few million followers overall. And over the last I left UVA last year, and the first semester I was off. I worked in my parents' basement, and it was interesting. But one of the most important things that I kind of missed at UVA was kind of the social structure. So my second semester, my co-founder and I decided to move to New York because there were kind of 3 things that we were worried about with kind of making a move from a structured life with school and jobs, etc., to this kind of new world of entrepreneurship. The 3 things were the practical element, the opportunity cost, and the social structure. With the practical element, it was it doesn't make sense to move from school and the structured element to Quantbase when we're still pre-seed, we're pre-revenue, we've got a product, but it doesn't make sense. But it's not it's not a given that you make the jump. The opportunity cost was with my co-founders. They were already kind of in the sweet space. I had gotten a few offers in investment banking and was gunning for a few more, and the social structure. So at UVA, it's kind of a given that if you're in college, you kind of have a social structure. You've got a safety net. And when you go out into the real world, it's hard to create that net. So we went to New York with the idea to create kind of a density of opportunity for ourselves. To go out there, create that social structure, So,
1 minute left.
so we did that. This is the image to your left is the view from our office. This is the hacker house that I lived at. The idea behind everything I'm saying here is, take that gap here. It's worth it. And yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up we have Devan Coombes. Did I say that right? Actually, never actually. Combes. Devan Combes.
A little bit of a weird one. Can y'all hear me? Awesome. So, no, it's not looking great. Hold it. There we go. So as you said, I'm Devan. Nice to be here and see y'all. I'm going to talk today a little bit about my company, Neverland Books, but mostly I'm going to go through a couple of different lessons that kind of slapped me across the face and hopefully save you guys a little bit of heartache and tell you some stories along the way. All right, so my company, Neverland Books, kind of started as a side hustle my first year, so same year as you guys, in the dorm. I really didn't want to get a job, and I wanted to do something that kind of made me a little bit of money, so I would go to thrift stores and flip books with an app that I found on some random Reddit forum, and I would just resell them on Amazon and make a little bit of cash. So I kind of kept doing that my first and second year, and I was a politics major, so I had nothing to do with entrepreneurship at all, at least I thought. I really didn't want to do anything in this sphere. Clearly that didn't work out for me. So yeah, I was working in politics and started kind of doing that as a side hustle, and then ended up getting an opportunity right as COVID hit to buy out an old used bookstore, which was about 1 million books at the time, 10 semi-truckloads, and I kind of jumped in, and in 2 weeks I had a warehouse and a full-fledged business and employees, and it kind of, I tripped into it. So yeah, so Neverland Books, we work on saving. We right now are processing almost 100,000 books a week and selling them on about 15 different platforms. And our focus is kind of on sustainability and keeping books out of the landfill, because as you can see there, almost 320 million books end up in the landfill every year. So a little bit about me. I am a first-generation student from the West Coast, from a really teeny tiny 3,000 person farm town, very low income background. And my first day in Virginia was my moving date. So I really kind of jumped, and I guess I had this ability and accidental want, I guess, to just kind of jump into things, as I ended up starting an online bookstore that way. So let's see, those two pictures right there are my first day at UVA. I knew I wanted to do something in politics. I knew that's what I really liked and what I really loved. So I came here for the politics department. It made sense. We were close to DC. And you'll see as I keep talking that I really said no to every opportunity that came my way. I kept saying, I never want to do this. I never wanted to move to Virginia. I never wanted to move to the East Coast. That was too far from my family. That was too far from my teeny tiny small town. I didn't want to do it. But I kept accidentally saying yes. So you can see here, that was an internship up in DC. I realized that I really hate the corporate world. And that was a big think tank. I really hated sitting in a cubicle. I hated having someone tell me what to do and have a job. And that was kind of the first inkling I had of, maybe I want to start something myself. So that's my first lesson for you guys, is never say never. I never wanted to start a company. Here I am. I never wanted to go to UVA. Here I am. I only wanted to work in politics. Well, that didn't end up happening. So then COVID hit, and what do? We got sent home. I was a second year when COVID hit, so we were right through halfway through the semester, and all of a sudden I was back in my teeny tiny town. You couldn't go to DC. I had a Capitol Hill internship lined up that I didn't get to end up doing. and I kind of watched, everything shut down and everybody lost opportunity. And, what do you do now? The entire department that I was around, everything changed, the entire dynamic changed, and I didn't really know what to do with it. So I moved back to Virginia about halfway through COVID when UVA started letting us come back. We had that first semester online. And I was sitting there and I couldn't do any of my old internships and I couldn't work in politics. I was doing a lot of campaign work and that all kind of shut down. So I was sitting there and I was trying to figure out what to do. I was still doing this book flipping thing on the side, right? And it was making me some pretty good cash. I didn't have to have a job. It was fantastic. And then one day, and here's the never say never, I found a post on Facebook of a bookstore in Stanton going out of business, and within 2 weeks, I owned over 1 million books. It was really, really exciting. So that's my second thing. A closed door often isn't just a closed door, it's some sort of opportunity. We really have to change the way we start thinking about things. So COVID sucked, it was awful, nobody liked it, but it also opened so many different opportunities if you were willing to not sit in the suck a little bit more and step out and look at the different opportunities that are around you. My next big thing, enjoy this terrible picture of me talking, is UVA is essential and people are essential. We talk a lot at UVA about networking, and we talk about how important that is. But I've really found that going to these different networking events, and people come up to you and they're like, hi, my name is, what do you do? That's not the way you do it. I think we're sometimes taught that that is, you just hand your business card and you move on, but you really want to focus on building relationships with people. Because when you build relationships, when you talk to people, when you get to know things about other people, they're going to start doing that for you and start connecting you with people. And that's how your network grows. It's not necessarily a, what can you do for me? I've really seen that here at UVA. The entrepreneurship department has been fantastic and amazing. Actually didn't end up completing my minor, but they've still been fantastic. Professor Martin and Ranslinger, and several different people at the Grant Center. There's another example of me just kind of tipping into something and people helping me along the way. I was literally sitting in class one day when Professor Martin walked in and started talking about the Grant Center and the Grant Challenge, and within a week I was one of the contestants on the Grant Challenge and walked away with almost $100,000, so it was awesome. That's what that picture is there. That's me and my parents. So you saw the screen of the unwilling entrepreneur. My dad is an entrepreneur through and through, and I kind of watched him grow up and start all these different companies and fail and start and fail. So that's actually a company he sold when I first left for college. I'm actually wearing a UVA shirt. So people are essential. Make sure you have some really good people in your corner. That's super, super important. For me, it was my parents and my friends. So there we go, network for relationships and not connections. We're gonna keep talking about people here next. Imposter syndrome, and I know some of the other speakers today are gonna talk about this. This is something that follows you everywhere at UVA, or at least it did for me. You're the top 10% of your class, and all of a sudden you're in a college where everybody's the top 10%, right? And that can't stay the way it is. So you really can look around, you go into class. I remember my first week of classes, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so not smart enough to be here, this is terrifying. But you really are. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent, and I really try to live my life by that. I think all of you should too. And that's honestly, whether it's at your entrepreneurship journey or your one here at UVA, no one really talks about how lonely being an entrepreneur can be, especially if you're starting a company like I did while you're still here. Your friends might look at you and be like, you're a little crazy. Here at UVA, our job is to go and we get a job, and that's how it is, and you get this fantastic thing. That's not always the case for everyone, and you definitely will have support if you know where to look in the right places. In the entrepreneurship department, that was it for me. So yeah, that's my last lesson. Don't compare yourself to others. That's really, really important. Yeah, do I have time for questions? I think that's all I have today. Feel free to reach out to me. I still check my UVA address. Devan Combs on all socials. I'd love to connect with you guys and talk to you, and maybe be the person who supports you if you need it.
Yes, we have some time for questions. Whoa, that's a delay. I see a question right here.
Hello. So you graduated already, if I understand it?
Yeah, I graduated 2 months ago, 3 months ago now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
But my question was mostly regarding you said that you were making money from the side hustle, and then eventually you saw on Facebook Marketplace that a store was going out of business, and so you jumped on the opportunity and took that. Did you ever raise funding for any of that, or was it just from your side hustle? Because I know earlier from the last speaker, sorry I forgot his name, but he spoke about raising funding through Wall Street and through some of his friends. So I was just wondering about that aspect of it.
Yeah, so we actually just went through our first fundraise and closed last week with the Cat Angels and Glam Challenge. And that was kind of an accidental fundraise. My first year, we didn't end up doing any fundraising. It was all self-done. I kind of bootstrapped it all the way through because I've been side hustling it for so long. The guy I bought the books from was in a really tight spot, so he let me do it on payments. I got really, really lucky. But no, we didn't do fundraising until our first year. It was already over and we were already profitable.
Okay, thank you so much, Devan. Round of applause. And Tom, so I don't know if Som touched on this, but how did you guys meet? Because you're like years apart.
So that's, we actually met,
Wait, I'll wait till you get a microphone. Sorry. Just quick answer so you can launch it.
you hear me? Okay. Yes, we actually met through a UVA entrepreneurship group chat. I had already graduated. I launched Quantbase. We had already gotten some traction. I had already got some traction. And I just posted in this group chat, hey, I've done this much. I'm about to apply to Y Combinator. Anybody want to work on this? And Som was among the people that reached out. So.
Excellent. Okay, I'll let you get started. Timer is starting soon.
Cool. So, I'm Thomas. I'm the co-founder of Quantbase, UVA 2020, and I wanted to talk today about getting too attached to your solution. And this is a very common startup trope, of course, but it really applies more generally in life, anywhere where you have a well-defined goal you're going towards, but the way to get there isn't so clear. And so this story for me starts in theoretical physics. So when I came to UVA, I was like a zealot for physics, pretty much. I figured anything not physics was a waste of time. I started working in the physics lab in high school. I was getting textbooks for Christmas. My first year, I was doing fourth year graduate level math and physics courses on the math team and everything. And so this is the only thing I cared about. Anything as mundane, so to speak, as like finance and money and doing something other than physics, I just thought was a total waste of time. And then after about 2 years of doing that, I realized physics is just way too bureaucratic. And so, it's not like the movies, it's not like, the books you read about it. It's a lot of grant writing and decades of preparation and credentials before you're a professor. And then you're running a lab, and it's a ton of administrative work and workloads. And the kind of catalyst for this, I came into the lab around midnight one night, and as I occasionally did, after homework and stuff, I do some work in the lab, and there was a postdoc working there, and he was a decade and a half older than me, and he was still a postdoc, and he still had, and that's normal, and he still had a decade and a half to go before he was a full professor, which is what I wanted to be, and I didn't want to wait 2 decades, 3 decades to start living my life, doing the thing I really wanted to do, and just kind of slogging along everywhere in between. And so yeah, that was the moment where I was like, okay, not physics anymore. And then I had this really dumb idea that, you're at UVA, everybody's talking investment banking, consulting, and everything, which I had no idea what these were before I came to UVA. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go into finance, I'll get really rich, and then I'll just retire and I'll do theoretical physics at my chateau somewhere and just do it on my own terms. And obviously this is a terrible idea because I'd hate that for one, but also just like the math doesn't check out. You got to do that for like a decade and a half. Compound interest kicks in and then you're retired. And so I still hate my life for a decade and a half. So that doesn't work. So I came up with a slightly better idea. I'll start a business, and you hear about all these overnight successes. You start a business, you're rich within a few years, you're a billionaire, and then you can do what you want. And it doesn't always work out like that, as you can probably guess. But I kept going with that. I had a few failed ideas, a few dead websites, and a few successes, a few customers, revenue. You know, things were working and increasingly working more than they were failing as I kept going. But at the end of the day, all this was still to chase physics. I was still thinking, okay, I'll do this for a few years, I'll win, I'll be rich, and then I'll do physics. But as I kept going, I realized I actually like entrepreneurship way more. And that's because the things I liked about physics was the creativity, the problem solving, the understanding the world and being able to predict the future. And that's a lot of what entrepreneurship is it's creative problem solving, trying to find a way to solve customer needs. And it's all very ill-defined. But once you get it right, you know, it's like you understand a fundamental truth about some key problems somebody suffers from, which is really cool. And around this time, I started working on this company, Baza, friend. And Baza did pretty good. It was like subreddits for local social businesses. Think like Facebook groups, but more modern. You know, your brewery or a student club would have a group on here, and the members could interact, they post content and stuff. But then the club creator, the community creator could post discounts if they're a business or events and such. And this got a few thousand users, 50 cities. And this larger company, Copuri, was doing kind of the same thing, but internationally. They had these kind of communities, but for the Sierra Club and all these other things. And so they bought it right before COVID. And so now it's 4th year for me. And I'm like, what am I gonna do now? I knew I wanted to start another company, of course, but didn't quite have an idea of what that company might be. So I decided to just get a job. I got a job at apartments.com as a software engineer. And up to this point, I'd been working on algo trading. You know, at the physics lab, I'd always had an academic interest in investing. I did a lot of coding there at the physics lab. And so it pretty naturally, you know, when retail trading started taking off in 2020, Robinhood, and NFTs and crypto and all this, I started working on Quantbase. And that's a website there. We're essentially like a brokerage, like Vanguard or Betterment, but specifically for aggressive investing. And I posted the strategies I had made on Hacker News, if anybody knows that forum, and on a few investing subreddits, and immediately shot to the top. And that was pretty cool. I was looking at the analytics for the website. It was like 700 people on the website right now, and it just kept going for hours and hours. And that's when I realized, okay, this is a little bigger, this is really exciting. And that's when I posted in the group chat, like, hey, I just posted this, it's killing it. Been doing this for a few weeks, working on this. Somebody else want to work on this. This group chat, UVA entrepreneurship, there's a few hundred members. I'm sure there's plenty of members in this room. And Som reached out, a few other people reached out, we talked, and it just clicked. And from there, a few months later, go full time. We get SEC registered, keep building, and we raise our pre-seed round, primarily from VC and angels, but we did a little bit of crowdfunding too. And then we find our co-founder, the final member of the team, this tech lead at Google, who had reached out as an early user. He said he wanted to join the team months ago, but we said at the time, we don't need the tech right now, but we'll keep your email and reach out. And the rest is history in quotes. You know, we launched live in February, and it's just been a journey. A lot of growing. You know, we're hoping to get profitable by the end of the year, and it's just all really exciting. So I say all this to say, we've seen with this with a lot of the other people who've spoken today, is that it's like a winding journey. And so in the beginning, I thought physics is it, and anything else is a waste of my time. But that wasn't true at all. And I quickly realized that it wasn't physics. Physics was the solution I was using, but the problem I was trying to solve, that I was trying to scratch the itch of creativity and problem solving, wanting to do something with that. And it went from physics to finance to tech and the business. And I think business is it now, startups, but I mean, who knows? So overall, just being honest with yourself, your true goals, your true motivations, and just being willing to chase them relentlessly, making dramatic changes if you need to find those goals and chase them. So, thank you.
Thank you, and we do have time for questions. I have one question. How much have you guys raised? Did you say that?
Yes, we raised just short of $500,000, and we're raising a seed round early next year.
15% was from just random people to crowdfunds?
That's right.
Excellent. All right, questions for Thomas. Let's hand first.
So I just had a quick question, because I'm noticing a common theme in a lot of these is that you guys put your name out there, you guys get some funding, and then boom, you're off to start off, right? Or your startup, and you start doing your business and everything. My question was more specifically, how do you get your name out there? How do you get these people interested in investing in you and your ideas?
So you mean as far as like raising funding?
More so as in raising awareness of what you do and who you are, that then generates the interest where people are like, I think that's a good idea, I want to fund that.
Yeah, so a lot of it wasn't inbound at the beginning. I mean, part of it is just because you have friends and family and stuff. A big part of it is just getting enough traction as a business where it is compelling enough for people to be interested. And then I think that's the hardest part is if you have something compelling, you're working on something very interesting, you have great traction, you're solving a real problem, you know, you can go find people. You can reach out on LinkedIn, talk to your friends, your network, email random people. And if you email something random with something really interesting, they usually respond. So.
Can you talk a little bit more about your competitive market advantage? Like there are a lot of other companies that have done stuff actually almost exactly the same. And you're also going against big hedge funds like Citadel as well as like a lot of other big players that have been in the market, not just for years, but for decades. So how do you beat them out? What do you think it is that brought the technique from Google to you specifically?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is one, we're for regular investors. So we're not like AQR or Bridgewater that are specifically for accredited and sophisticated investors. We're for everybody. And there's another firm in the space called Titan that in many ways could be similar. They're more like a long-short, actively managed hedge fund. We're purely quantitative. We're running strategies that are algorithmic, they're rules-based. They go back decades and decades. So it's a totally different approach, and beyond that, we cover all assets because these are algorithmic. So we don't need a specific team for actively managing each one of these assets. We cover NFTs and all these that Titan simply doesn't.
Okay, give a round of applause for Thomas. And next up, we have our last speaker, and this is Alexander Singh right here.
All right, let's see if we can figure this out. Can you hear me? We're good?
Yeah.
All right. I remember sitting in these seats and looking up here and seeing like 2019 grad or like 3 years ahead of me grad, and I was like, oh, he's that old geezer. Now I am an old geezer. So that starts us off. But I'm excited to go last because pretty much everything that you've heard today is what I'm going to be talking about anyways. There's a professor here at Darden named Sarah Saraswati. She talks about all the different entrepreneurship principles of successful entrepreneurs. And everyone here has basically covered those principles in the same way. So my presentation is about inches. I think that the movie Any Given Sunday probably outdates most of you. Anybody know that movie? Oh, there's a few of you. All right, some of the older folk. But basically the principle is that life is a game of inches. So you can take life a centimeter at a time, keeping your head down, focused on what you're doing, never seeing those opportunities that are out around you. You can take huge leaps. You can take every single opportunity and fall down and not become successful. Or you can find the right balance between focus and taking risks and find that success in taking those leaps. So that's what I'm going to try to cover today. This is the story of my inches. People always see me, they see that YCW22, they're like, wow, you're Y Combinator, that's so great. Like, how do I apply? How do I get in? Like, what's the step? And it's like, it's not just that Y Combinator. There's so much that happened to get to that point. And that's what I really want to talk about today. So you won't hear anything about Y Combinator today. If you want to ask me about it, you can talk to me afterwards about it. But the first principle is that it's not just your own inches. You can try to make the journey yourself, and you can be successful, but that's really, really, really rare. It's really helpful if you have people in your network who give you a jetpack to take you to the next level, or perhaps catapult you there, or add fuel to your tank. So for me, basically, I came to UVA. I'm a brown kid. My family's a group of doctors. They were like, you need to be a doctor if you want to be successful in life. Otherwise, we'll disown you and you can go to community college. That is literally the conversation I had with my parents. So I started off in medical research. I was looking at like sports injuries and tendons and stuff. I was working in a research lab over the summer. And my professor, Dr. Panzer, gave me an opportunity to start working on my own research. And I was like a really timid guy. I was so introverted. I was like, oh, I was sitting back in the room. I won't say anything. And he kind of saw that, I was understanding science. And he gave me this opportunity. And it gave me that first real sense of ownership of something, which allowed me to start building the self-confidence in there. So I put a lot of my company's success on Dr. Panzer and that initial support that he gave me. And so that's where that self-confidence really comes into play. That same summer, my younger brother had surgery for scoliosis, which is when your back is excessively curved. And I was thinking, getting into biomedical engineering, I'm feeling some self-confidence, I know how to own projects myself. So I decided to start a research project around that. And so I emailed a flyer to the entire school, which you can't do anymore, unfortunately. But basically, I was like feeling super confident. I was like, wow, I'm the smartest guy. It's came up with a super cool idea. I'm gonna do it. So I emailed the entire school. I got like 15 inbounds. Ended up selecting 10 people to start working on this idea. It was a pretty ugly flyer, as you can see. But anyways, we realized that we needed some money, and I think that for a lot of people here in the audience, you probably aren't like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm thinking about entrepreneurship. Most people are kind of interested in different ideas, they want to work on different things. But for us, we were the same way. And that need to kind of fund our project to take it to the next level is what turned us into entrepreneurs. And that's where the e-cup comes into play. So this was from our first submission, our first presentation. We literally submitted this stupid drawing of some vertebrae in your spine, and we ended up winning. So you don't have to have some crazy built out app or anything to apply to the e-cup. It literally just takes an idea. And then, fast forward 4 years later, we're 4th years, and we're presenting at the ACC Inventor Prize, live broadcasting. We end up winning and going through all that. So that just shows the story of just come up with the idea first, focus on that, and if you keep with it, you can get to that same place. So, kind of inherent in that is, as we went through UVA, very similar to most of the people up here, going to the iLab, entrepreneurship classes, Gallant Center, etc. Growing that network, getting support from your initial network, having that personal growth, and then using that personal growth to grow your company. And when your company grows, you get a bigger network. So that's where things like YC come into, Lighthouse Labs come into, different accelerators. Each time we got a bigger network, that set us up again for more personal growth, company growth. And it's like a cyclical thing that if you always focus on growing your network, you can kind of achieve success just by sticking with something. You don't have to have the best idea in the world. You don't have to have the best founders in the world, the smartest people. You don't have to go to Stanford or Harvard or MIT or whatever. You just need to stick with it. Second lesson, risk is a super important balance. So for me, this story really comes into play when we talk about peer pressure, summer jobs, internships. So when I was a 4th year, my girlfriend at the time, who I really, really wished was Blake Lively. I don't know if you guys knew Blake Lively, but she was not Blake Lively, unfortunately. But she got a job, and I saw her get a job, and I was like, wow, I need to get a job, because she's not going to like me if I'm poor and don't have a job. So I was like, okay, start applying to jobs with career fairs. I ended up going down that route. I would start working at Deloitte. And the reason I did that was because I wasn't comfortable with the risk associated with being in my own startup, doing my own thing, not having money coming in. And so I did that for a few years. And I think my point there is that you don't have to just be that guy to go 0 to 100, startup, entrepreneurship, let's go. There's a middle ground here where you can balance out taking your part-time hours, when you have paid time off or whatever, using that to work on your startup, using your free time to kind of integrate the startup into your daily life schedule and not kind of see it as entrepreneurship, corporate world, two separate items. There's certainly a middle ground here. So, eventually, I decided that our idea was good enough, my affordable loss was well calculated, and I could take the opportunity to quit my job and go on this business full time. So this was our first office in Richmond. It's like pretty bad office. We like literally, it was an open space. We just took a bunch of tables and blockers and created a fake office, and we got yelled at multiple times. We were like, who cares? We just want an office space. And then eventually we left Richmond. We started making money, we fundraised, we got into Y Combinator, we had these successes, and we were like, okay, now we feel comfortable with taking even more risk and moving to a place where we can continue to grow that network in that cyclical fashion like I was talking about. So that's us leaving. That's our office in New York. We have a beautiful view of the Freedom Tower, literally right outside our window, standing there. It's incredible. That picture will come up later as well. And the next lesson is about adaptability. You know, not like Darwinian adaptability of like growing horns in the jungle or whatever, but like real adaptability to things that happen on an everyday basis. So this goes back to my career, but I think this lesson is like applicable at UVA as well. I was a month into my job, my manager left, and I was the only person who had any idea what was going on in the project. And the project was working with adverse events for vaccines during the pandemic. So like literally one of the most important things to manage the vaccine response to the pandemic. And I could have been in that same mindset that I was in when I first started at UVA, timid in the back, wait for the new manager to come in, send them my notes, have them get up to speed. But I was like, I see an opportunity here. And I feel like I'm smart enough, I know enough to take a small jump and try to take that opportunity. So that's what I did. Basically, I became, like, this looks really stupid, but like, I was an analyst and I became a manager, like in that role. And so I ended up managing that whole project, working with the clients, working with the team, and building that whole kind of response out for that vaccine management aspect that we were doing. And the point there is like, that self-confidence and that adaptability to be like, oh shit, my manager just left, like what am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna sit back or am I gonna try to take over that role and really clasp onto it? Next lesson. The bricks make the castle. I don't know, I made this up like late last night. I think it's kind of silly.
1 minute left.
Oh, I gotta read through this. Well, basically the point is that when you have people that can self-select into your network, it helps your business grow exponentially. So having people like Alex, Liz, Damon, all these other companies that go through UVA that offered to help us, it wasn't just like us going out to ask them. This is our advisor, or now one of our co-founders who's a UVA doctor, having him like reach out to us and self-select himself into our company and our network. This is another advisor, basically the point. Bricks make the castle. If you don't have good bricks, your castles fall down. Lastly, controlling what you can. They call this pilot in the plane, but basically focusing on all the aspects, being able to pivot, and being able to think on the fly. Oh man, I didn't practice this, so obviously my timing is off, but basically, last point, networking is super important. The person next to you could be your co-founder. I mean, Som and Tom right here, they're literally sitting next to each other, they're co-founders, so like, look left, look right, connect with these people, because these are all the people, like when I was sitting in your shoes, that brought me to where I am today. So like certainly try to network, reach out to me on LinkedIn, phone number, text me, whatever. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Just turn it off and put it back on there. Thank you all. I just have a couple of closing points. So hopefully that was exciting. Many of these companies started, or at least got their start, by being motivated with a little bit of cash prize. We have something called the Entrepreneurship Cup. And the first stage is the concept stage. And for that, you just need an idea and a 2-page submission. It's due in late October, and so just be aware of that. There's 3 takeaways I want you to get from this. Again, if they can do it, you can do it too. Many of them did not even, entrepreneurship wasn't even in the realm of possibility. One of the speakers was studying physics textbooks at that time, so I mean, that's kind of really far from apply to anything. So second thing, it's not about the idea in the beginning. Many people started working on stuff that wasn't even related to what they're doing now. It's really about that ability to adapt and to persevere and follow your curiosity. And lastly, you have a community of other students, alums, staff, faculty who want to help the alums in this room, I don't know if you saw, but they gave you their phone number, at least their email. And there's a bunch of students in this room right now who are, who knows what kind of connection you'll have to them in the future. And on that note, if you did capture the email or phone, or if you want them, like, those speakers mean it. Like, reach out. In previous years, many students are afraid to reach out because they don't think that they have anything to say to these speakers who are up on the stage. The reason why they're here, and correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why they're here today on a Saturday afternoon is because they want to talk to you. They wish that someone had been there for them. Actually, many of them did have someone who was there for them. They want to be that person who's there for you in the beginning. Again, here's this next event. If you just want to take it slow and just learn about all the resources. And then with that, I want the speakers to come up after the event. We're going to take a picture real quick. For all the rest of you, there is pizza outside if you would like something to eat, and the speakers will be available for questions. I only ask that you take the questions outside to the pizza. Yeah, thank you all so much for coming.
It's the oldest of the new. Yeah, I lived in Canada, which was sick. Because it's literally like oh, really? It was great fun.
Can the speakers come up here real quick? Speakers? Just up here real quick for a quick picture.
The guy was like, what?
Devan. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
They have like a gigantic sheet of paper. Each person has a name, and as it goes on, they have to like tally and update. Like, oh, this person made a rebound.
And then one would be with them, and then one also.
I actually didn't get my name.
All right, guys. Could you get in a? Let's come in the middle of the screen.
Hey, what's up, man? It was so small. Like, look how small a copy is. It actually fell while I was walking back. Look at this copy.
All right.
You see this?
Excellent. Take it outside towards the pizza.
You can't just become like a good idea. How about we make like a position?
Well, you joined. He joined.
Speakers, if you could take the conversations out towards the pizza. Out towards the pizza, Thomas. No, because like I want people to be out there as well.
Yes, I've heard about this. Oh yeah.
I don't recognize it.
Let me take a picture of you guys.
It's like a birthday present. We're also we're gonna get some food. Gotta eat like one of we gotta take a picture. Do you want me to show you 20 picture?
Oh yeah. Quentin, right?
Yes.
Quentin. I've seen lots of pictures of
I know, yeah.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right. guys, so
Enjoy.
did you see all the people, all the first years? Yeah, they all got extra credit.
Yeah? And your friends are sitting in the front,
Yeah,
right?
they're just kind of moves a lot. Yeah, all the time. They're very specific.
All right.
Very nice. Very
So,
cool.
big your monkey.
What happened was basically 7 nanometer, 14 nanometer, and 65 nanometers now.
Something like that. But I always got it inside. I'm like, I'm a person. I always have it inside.
Because I might say something foolish. Ooh, come on, please work.
This year's Spark is much better than last year too.